Hello everybody, my name is Veer Kumar and here I am presenting my fourth task for the Sparks Foundation, that is exploratory data analysis on the global terrorism dataset. This is rather an unfortunate topic, but we will move on with the technical part of this presentation. First, I have done the imports. I've used Python as well as Tableau to do my analysis. So first, showing my Jupyter notebook here, I have done the imports. The necessary imports have been done. I have read the CSV data file, printed the head. There were many columns which I had to rename, so I have renamed them. And as you can see, there was a lot of nan columns and nan values, so I had to drop many columns and I had to clean the data set and make it seem better. Use the is null method to find out there are still many missing values here, as you can see. Further on, after a lot of cleaning, I have moved on to the first analysis here, which is the most attack prone regions of the world, which the highest terror attacks were committed in Iraq with 24,636 attacks, followed by Pakistan, which is 14,368, then Afghanistan, 12,731 attacks, then India, 11,960 attacks, Colombia with 8,306 attacks. Further on, we will see the graphs for these as well. Moving on to the timeline of the attacks over the last 45 years, I have used matplotlib for the visualization, and as you can see, there's been a rising trend over the last 45 years or so, especially even more so in the last 10 years, as we can say. Next, I have visualized the casualties each year, which have also seen an unfortunately rising trend over the past few years, although there has been a slight decline on 2017, which is country-wise total attacks have been plotted. Next, as we can see, we have clearly found it out earlier that Iraq is leading in this field, followed by Pakistan, then Afghanistan and India. Iraq has close to 25,000 attacks over the last 45 years, which is devastating. Looking at the region-wise attacks now, we see that Middle East, North Africa and South Asia are the red zones, and this is not surprising because Iraq, Pakistan, India, Afghanistan all belong to this region, and they are prone to highest number of attacks, and these come under the red zones. Now we will move on to the terrorist groups and the total number of attacks they committed. We see that Taliban is the notorious terrorist group which has committed more than 7,478 attacks, followed by ISIL, then Shining Path. We have even visualized this to see ISIL, Taliban leading the number of terrorist attacks, followed by ISIL, and then Shining Path, FM, LN, Al-Shabaab, and so on. Finally, I've come here to see the terrorist group activity trend, and as we can see, over the past 5-10 years, we can see that ISIL has had increased activity, although if we had a more present data set, we would know that this activity has declined, but since the data set is slightly old, like I'd say 2-3 years back, so we can see that there's a rising trend in ISIL activity. So with same with Al-Shabaab and Boko Haram, we can see the rising trend there. So this is it with the Jupyter notebook Python analysis. I'll move on to Tableau now. Okay, now we are in the Tableau workbook. I have done some analysis here as well. Tableau is very helpful for visualization, and here you can see the Indian cities I have visualized. I'll just quickly run you through each of my sheets. So these are the different cities I have plotted here. The next sheet, the next I've also made a dashboard here, which is just loading right now. It will take some time to load. And the dashboard here talks about the various modes of attacks that took place in India. I have marked it on Mumbai right now, and as you can see, I have turned the filter on all of these individual worksheets so that they can be interactive for us to use. Here basically I've created an interactive dashboard where you can see that different cities in India have been plotted here, and we can see here the rise of the trends of global terrorism over the past 45 years. The main attack type we can see here is bombing, which attack type 1 bombing has 3,459 casualties here. Here in the fourth sheet I've plotted here shows the target type, and we can clearly see that the private citizens have been targeted the most, with the target type 1 having 10,598 casualties. We could even go ahead in the timeline, and since this is an interactive graph, so we can see how the trends have changed for different kinds of attack types. As we can go back and see so many cities were attacked, and later we can change it and we can see how the graphs have changed, how bombing has a very large role to play in the global terrorism, and how sniffer dogs can be used to tackle this kind of a terror threat in our society. Moving on to the next dashboard, I have brought in many kinds of sheets over here as well, and there's a world map here. We have frequency of attacks over time. We have mode of attack versus the number of casualties. Here, sheet number 17 is actually the group name versus the country, and here we have the different sections of the society which were attacked. Again, let's randomly pick one country. Let's pick China, and we can see that in China, Uyghur separatists and East Turkmenistani Islamic movement, that is ETIM, have been the major cause for causing terror attacks, and they have majorly targeted private citizens and the police. And the major activity has been 2008, and there have been some isolated incidents in 2013 as well as 2014. The mode of attacks mainly used were armed assault and bombing or explosion. Coming back to India again, we can do some evaluation here. Again, in India, the major terrorist groups that have attacked here are one is the Maoist, CPI Maoist. Then we go and we see there's been GNLF. It's quite a big data set, so Maoists again, and there is unknown. Frequency of attacks over time, if we can see that there's been a rising trend here as well. In 2000, so we can see in 2009 there's 116 attacks, 76 in 2010, and the trend keeps rising actually, with 2017 being a bad year with 176 attacks. Again, armed assault takes the lead here, 2,375 killed, followed by bombing or explosion. We'll just take one more country here. We'll take the United States, and we can see that the police has been also attacked a lot over here. Other than the private citizens and properties attacked always on a higher scale. And here we can see the different terror groups here, or the assaulters, the people who have assaulted here. Again, these are few isolated incidents we can see, and the graph isn't showing too much. Hijacking seems to be the most